Okay.
And then Heidi, do you want
Hi,
to share your
everyone.
screen? Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'll share
Sorry.
my desktop. Okay.
All right, so we can get started. Thank you guys for coming to our workshop on maximizing workflow and prototyping. Rebecca, you want to talk about the sponsors?
Yeah, so really quickly, we'd like to thank our sponsors. Without them, this Design-a-thon would not be possible. So thank you to Sketch, Rice University Center for Career Development, the Lilly Lab at Rice, Third Slant, Rosenfeld. On the next slide, we have Wolfram Language, Rice's Fondren Library, Neighbors, Sticker Giant, and A Book Apart. So thank you to all of our sponsors.
Also, be sure to stick around to the end of the workshop. We'll be sending a sign-in sheet where you can put your first and last name. And from there, we're going to be randomly choosing 5 attendees who will each win a year of these various Wolfram services for the subscription. And just like I said, stay till the end, and winners will be announced at the closing ceremony. And please do not share this spreadsheet with anyone who's not here. And we're going to go ahead and close it at the end of the workshop.
All right, thank you guys. So just to get started, we're going to introduce ourselves. So I'm Daniel. I am a junior at Rice, one of the UI UX leads.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heidi. I am a senior at Rice, and I'm the other UI UX lead for Rice Design.
So just to get started, letting you guys know what we're going to do today, we're talking about maximizing workflow, which just basically means how can we, how can we like be really efficient in the way we work with Figma. And so that includes collaboration and communication with your team, quick tricks and like shortcuts on Figma, plugins that you guys could use, frames versus groups, auto layout. And the last thing we'll talk about is prototyping, and also really a couple cool features of prototyping to bring your designs to life. So why is it important to learn these skills? Well, these skills may seem difficult or tedious because you guys have to retrain yourselves to learn it, but they do help in the long term. Maximizing workflow allows you to collaborate with your teams and move and work more efficiently. And this saves you from wasting a lot of time, effort, and confusion when using Figma. Personally, like this, when I was creating this workshop, planning for it, I was like, oh, I should really use these skills when I work, because they're really, really helpful. And also prototypes are a great way to turn your static designs into realistic interactive ones. It allows you to preview, explore your interactions and flows. Also, you can test your prototypes and your designs with users, but probably most importantly, your prototypes are what you're submitting for the Design-a-thon. So whatever we are showing you guys here, it's really practical skills. And so we kind of constructed this workshop so you guys can like apply it right away or even right now in your design and your project submission. So in terms of communication and collaboration, I'm sure you guys in the teams have found some sort of way to communicate. But in Figma, there's also a feature where you can communicate, and that's simply the question mark and the slash key on your keyboard. If you click that, if you press that while you're on Figma, you will automatically be able to instant message and comment on whatever on your workspace in Figma, and that way you can communicate with your team directly and really, really quickly.
And yeah, I'll just demo what Daniel was talking about. So if I press the slash key or the question mark key, the same button, then this appears, and I can start talking or like, and this will disappear in a few seconds. And so this is really helpful if you know that other members of your team are also on Figma, and you can kind of quickly communicate through this way. Another way of collaborating that Daniel just mentioned is the comment feature. And so if you look at the tab bar on top, you can click comment or press C, and you can, let's say I want to get feedback on this toggle component right here. I can say like, hi Daniel, how do you feel about this toggle? And then he can come on and he'll see this and he can comment. And then once we've discussed it, you can resolve this question by pressing resolve. So yeah, it's really helpful to keep all forms of communication on Figma. So what you talk about with your team members doesn't get lost in the text message conversation.
Yeah, and I think the commenting feature is really powerful because it really documents the conversation between you and your teammates. And so while you guys are discussing, you guys can always reference back and just see like different ideas and stuff that you guys have. And so those are two really great ways to maximizing the way you work on Figma.
Yes. So next I'll be going over some shortcuts, quick tricks that will really help speed up your workflow. So I will also be demoing this on Figma. The first thing is you might notice that when you want to resize your frame or resize the interface that you're working with, you might end up squishing the design. So I'll demo that on Figma. So let's say that I want to resize this the screen right here, but if I move it, you can see that it kind of messes up my design. That's because you have to press Command. So when you hold down Command, you're really resizing the frame and not the designs that you're working on. And you can see this vertically as well. If you hold down Command, it'll just extend the frame. But let me do that without holding Command. You can see that things are messing up. So yeah, that's a cool trick. Very helpful. And the second one is you want to press Command or Control instead of double clicking to select a specific object. So once you start having groups within groups or frames within frames, you might notice that it's rather inconvenient to keep double clicking to get to the specific object you want to select. But if you just hold down Command and click the object, you get directly to that object instead of triple clicking, which is very inconvenient. So yeah, that's another quick trick. And the third one is tidying up. So let's say that you have a lot of objects that you want to quickly organize. Well, you can select all of it and then go to this button right here, the grid, and you can tidy it up. So that's really fast, very simple. And then you can begin to resize it horizontally and vertically. So that's super quick. The next one is copying styles. So let's say that I've created this rectangle with 20 pixel corner radius and a drop shadow. And I don't want to go through the trouble of recreating this style onto this next rectangle. So you can make it you can save the style, but another quick trick is if you hold down Command Option C. So you may know Command C, Command V, or Control C, Control V to copy and paste. But if you hold down Command Option C and then Command Option V, you copy that style onto your new design, which is a very speedy trick. The next one is doing math in Figma. And we don't mean anything super complicated, but let's say that I want to divide this rectangle with a width of 733 pixels into 4 smaller rectangles. Well, I don't have to take out my phone and go on the calculator app to do that. All I have to do is select it and go to width and do 733 divided by 4, and it'll give you the exact pixel size for the rectangles. And the next thing I'll be talking about is shifting up and down a lot quicker than moving an object by 1 pixel. So if I hold down the up or down arrow, you can see that I move the object by 1 pixel up or down. But let's say that you want to move it by 10 pixels or 20 pixels or 30 pixels. All you have to do is hold down Shift and press up and down, and you automatically move the object by an increment of 10 pixels. And if you want to change that preference, you can do so in settings. So every time you hold down shift and up or down, you can move the object by 8 pixels or 16 pixels, whatever you'd like. So next I'll be going over some really cool plugins that I wish I knew about when I first started my Figma journey. And so what I ended up doing when I first started using Figma was I would create my own icons or drag in my own photos, but that can take up a lot of time. And so we're going to go over 5 really cool, simple plugins that you can use in your workflow. So the first one is Mapsicle, and Mapsicle allows you to look up any location and insert a photo of the map onto your design. So let's say you're creating an app such as Lyft or Uber, like where you need a specific location and an image of that. Well, then you can just download Mapsicle or run Mapsicle, and that'll be a really quick way to do so. And I'll go over how to look up plugins. So if you're on Figma, all you have to do is go on the top bar, and under plugins, you can see the list of plugins that I've been using, or you can find more plugins and look up ones that you want. And there are a ton of plugins on Figma, and so you really have a whole library to choose from. The next one I'll be going over is find and replace. So let's say you have a design where you have a lot of screens that have the word health. Let's say you're doing a health app and you have the word health everywhere. But once you're designing, you realize that you actually want to replace the word health with health app. And you don't want to go to every single instance in which you have the word health and retype that and add health app. You can use the plugin called find and replace. So you find all instances in which you use the word health and replace that with health app, and it'll automatically update your designs with the new words you're using. The next plugin is called Unsplash, and this is a really popular one. When you're creating your designs, you want to make sure that the images you're using are royalty free, but it can be a hassle looking up royalty free images on Google and making sure that you have permission to use them. So if you download Unsplash, it has a whole library of photos you can use. So let's say I want to include images of people. Well, all I do is look up person or people, and it'll give me that person has 10,000 results that I can choose from. So that's really helpful. The next one are icons. So again, when I first started my Figma journey, I spent a lot of time drawing my own icons, when instead I could have been using IconDuck, Iconify, or Material Design Icon, and several other plugins, where all you have to do is look up the icon you want, such as user. And as you can see on the screen, it gives you several options for icons to use. And the last one I'll be going over is Lorem Ipsum. So you might know Lorem Ipsum as the filler text. But instead of having to look up Lorem Ipsum generator on Google and copying the exact amount of words you think you'll need and then deleting the rest onto your Figma design, the Lorem Ipsum plugin will allow you to insert however many words you need to fill up the text box. So that is very helpful to use. The next thing I'll be talking about is groups versus frames. So you might know groups, you might be familiar with it if you've used Adobe products or Google Slide, Google Doc. Groups is very intuitive. And you use it if you want to combine multiple objects onto one layer, or you might use groups if you want the objects in a layer to have a fixed relationship when scaled. And you want to use frames if you want to resize a frame independent of its contents, or if you want a separate layout grid within a group of objects, or if you want nested scrolling. So I'll be going over groups versus frames on Figma. So let's say I have 3 shapes right here. I can select all of them and hit Command G or Control G to group. And I have one group called group 123 on the sidebar. if I scale it up or down, you can see that the shapes scale with the group. But if I use frames instead, I go through the same process of selecting the shapes, and I right click and hit frame selection. So what happens here is that I can resize the frame, but it's independent of the content within it. And so frames can be very helpful when you're doing horizontal scroll, which I can also demonstrate right here. So this is a design I'm currently working on. And you can see that I want a horizontal scroll, and the items within this frame go past the boundary of the screen. And so I frame this selection by selecting all the contents, framing it, and I drag the frame to wherever I want it. And it's almost acting like a clipping mask. So I select that, and then when I play it, second. I can move the objects, or I can scroll horizontally because I have a frame that's holding it together. So the next thing I'll be talking about is auto layout. And you would use auto layout when you want equal spacing between components when resizing frames, and it is a responsive feature. So let's say that I want to create a series of buttons. How you might go about creating a button is you create a rectangle, and then you have a text box, and let's call this button 1. And then we'll group that. But if you want to go back and change the name of the button, let's say I want this to be called button, yeah. Then I would have to resize this again and make sure that it's got equal padding on both sides, and fidget that to the way you want it. And that's not very practical. So what you can do instead is create a rectangle, and then put your text on top, and then frame this instead. And then we have something called auto layout on the sidebar. You press auto layout, and now what happens is you can title this button whatever you want it to, and it responds to the amount of text you have in the text box. So that's really helpful and will save you a lot of time. So next I'll be going over prototyping. You might have heard of prototyping already. It's a method of creating interactive flows that explore how a user will interact with your designs. And so essentially it involves bringing your static designs to life. So I can do a quick demo of that. So it's very simple. I have a series of 3 screens right here, and I go to prototype on the sidebar right here. Let's say that I want to transition from the music tab to the groups tab. I select groups. I'll get rid of that. I select groups, and then I want it to take me to this screen right here. And then this sidebar will pop up, and it's telling me that on tap, I will be navigated to this second screen right here. And I have this on Smart Animate. And Smart Animate means that Figma will automatically transition between these 2 frames because they know that Figma knows that it's similar. And so Smart Animate is a really cool feature that we'll talk about later as well. And so when you press play, and I'm on the music screen right here, if I go to groups, it'll very smoothly transition to groups. I can play that again. Yeah. And Daniel, do you want to pick up from here? Talk about master components.
Yeah, so with prototyping, there are a couple of cool things you could do. So one of them is master components, and this is just a way to speed up the prototyping process. As you saw in the quick demo, when you're prototyping, you have to drag, a button or like one button or one component to another page, another component. And once you have like a lot of different pages, a lot of different things going on, a lot of different interactions, it gets really tedious, really, really messy. So what you can do instead is utilize master components. And it will also really, really cut down on time. I know that's a huge thing for the Design-a-thon. So we can go ahead and play the video. Yeah. So as you can see in this video, they created master component and they're bringing it out. And then they're going to close it. And then they're going to make copy, and they're going to copy and paste that master component. And we're going to call those components, just for the sake of this, child components. And so you can see that they're editing the child components individually, but that doesn't affect the master component. And so you can still edit the child ones to like personalize it. And now here we're prototyping using and only manipulating the master component. So the search bar will go to the search page. And if we pause that real quick, you can see that, can we go to the very end? Yeah, a little bit more. Perfect. Yeah, thank you. So here you can see that when we manipulate only the master component, it still is applied to the different children. And so instead of having to go on this first page and then prototype and put all the flows 9 different times, 9 different instances, you just need to do it 3 times and it will be applied. And this might seem like kind of a not that important skill, but once you have like 20 pages or 15 pages, that really adds up. And so utilizing master components will really, really save you a lot of time and just clean up your prototyping process.
Yeah. Well, that concludes our presentation. We'll now open the floor to any questions you guys might have.
Yeah.
And
Thank
maybe
you guys
we
for
can
coming. Yeah.
pause the recording here.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Gary, this is Pat, right? Katie.
And was the spreadsheet for like the prize, the Wolfram Alpha, was that sent out, Rebecca?
I will send that out right now.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions about what we just talked about, or if you guys want us to go through any of the slides again, just let us know. Okay, well, that concludes the end of our workshop. You guys are free to go. If you guys want to ask questions on your own, just stay behind and you can ask us individually. So thank you guys for coming.
Thanks, guys, and thank you, Daniel and Heidi, for hosting this presentation. I hope everybody found it useful. Make sure you have filled out the giveaway sheet if you are interested in receiving Wolfram products. Somebody asked are the slides going to be posted. So we're actually recording this workshop. I'll post the YouTube recording. And then Daniel and Heidi, would you all be able to like download a PDF and maybe send that in the channel?
Yeah, no problem. We can do that.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming to our last workshop. Good luck with your designing.